Welcome back. Today I continue my crusade against the lower rated bots on chess.com. This time I'm going to try to do it a little differently, whereas if I beat the first bot, which is Milica from Serbia, is my current one, I'm just going to go on to the next one and we'll see how many bots we can beat in one video. Okay, let's choose Milica. We will choose random color, challenge, no help of any kind, and play. Okay, this time random gave me the black pieces. All right, I am going to try the Caro-Kann and see what Milica does. Okay, Milica knows the correct move here. That's interesting. In the Caro-Kann defense, if you're not familiar, the next move for black is d5. Okay, that's a normal move in the Caro-Kann. At this point, instead of the knight move, she could have played here, which is the advanced variation. She could have captured my d5 pawn, which is the exchange variation. This, it might be the main line. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that my best move here is to take that pawn. I'm not 100% whether I should take or whether I should defend. But I'm going to take it. Okay, that makes sense. And now I will develop my light squared bishop with tempo, at which point, if she's playing correctly, I believe she will put that knight back there. And if she does, which challenges my bishop, yeah, then I put my bishop right here. Okay, I don't think Milica has made a mistake yet. But now that I have this bishop out, I can move this pawn, which will allow me to get my dark squared bishop out. Yeah, coming after my bishop so soon. Don't like that much. I think in that case, because if I move up, of course, this knight can capture me, so I believe what I'm supposed to play here is h6. I don't know, it might be h5. But so far, I believe that Milica is playing book moves. I think I've gone this far in book before, which is surprising for a low-rated bot to get to book moves on move 7. And this way, okay, I was going to say, if the pawn advances, then the bishop can slide back. If that bishop comes out, I can just take it. I'm pretty sure that is normal. And then I can develop my dark squared bishop. I believe here is as good a place as any. Also, a knight move is fine here. I'm going to put the bishop here. And then at this point, I can get this knight out, and now I can castle. I don't think that the bot has made a glaring blunder yet. She might have made a mistake or some inaccuracies, but I'm pretty sure there has been no blunder yet. That might be a mistake. I'm not sure. It aims itself at its own pawn. But again, I'm not sure. It might be setting up for a pawn move, which will then unleash the bishop. But I'm not too worried about the bishop being unleashed just yet. I still do not have this check because I didn't have it before because the bishop could have blocked, and then the same thing now. The bishop can block that check, so I'm not going to put the queen there. I am considering putting the queen here. My reasoning being that I want it to still be able to protect this bishop once I move my knight. I also don't know if I should move the knight first and then protect the bishop, but I'm going to move the queen first to line it up with the bishop. Okay, I can win a pawn here by trading off minor pieces, and then my queen can follow up and win that pawn. But I don't know if that's good, because then I know that my queen would be undefended, and this knight could move someplace with tempo. So I don't know if that's good. I do know that it is good to develop all of our pieces before we begin attacking. So I am going to develop my last undeveloped piece, and the pawn storm has begun. I just realized that earlier when I said I didn't have that check with the queen, I could have checked with the bishop. And if blocked with the bishop, I could have put my queen behind it. But I don't know if that would have been any good. All right, I have developed all my pieces. My knight has an extra protector. So if this pawn does move at some point and the bishop takes, I won't have to take back with the pawn opening up my king. I will be able to take back this way. That was the reason for that knight move, in addition to the fact I had few places to develop it. Okay. And I think I want a rook on my only open file. This file is semi-open because I don't have a pawn on the d file. In fact, I think my opponent should be thinking about a pawn on the e file, which is their semi-open file. All the other files have pawns on both sides. Okay, but if I do that, I'm expecting one or the other of these pawns to advance. I don't know which one. This one, I think I would respond with e captures, and if they captured back, d captures, I think. So maybe I want a rook on that file too. But I believe this is first. Okay, that was a smart move. Not only did it get the queen off of the file where I just put my rook, but it lined the queen up with the bishop. But that's only going to matter if I ever move this knight. If this knight and this pawn are gone, then that's a mate threat right there. So I have to be on the lookout for that. Milica is playing fairly well, at least as it seems to me right now. And I think because we have so many pieces looking at this square right now, I think I should go ahead and put my rook over here. Because if I can push my e-pawn, I have a bishop guarding that square, I have a queen guarding that square, and then I will also have a rook and a knight guarding that square. So I believe I will push the rook now. Okay, I was thinking that might happen. And that's fine because, well, it's fine because I left the escape route open for my bishop. In addition to this, which I mentioned some time ago, that I could take this knight and then take the pawn with my queen afterward. But I don't know how good that is, leaving my opponent with the only bishop on the board. But I can also come back here, which will help defend my g-pawn against mate. So that's my choice right now. Do I want to go there, play defensively and carefully, or do I want to go on the attack? That is the question. I tend to play defensively, so I am learning to be a better attacker. But I'm still not as comfortable with that, especially playing with the black pieces, as I am playing a defensive role. Okay, well now I have one less attacker on this square, because before I had the bishop and the queen, but now I don't have the bishop anymore. So if I push my e-pawn, I have the rook and the knight and the queen all guarding that square. Whereas my opponent only has 1, 2, 3 attackers on that square. So if I move that, if they take, I take, and if they take, I can take with my rook, and they will not take back. Oh, they could take back with their queen because they have another. Okay, so maybe that's not a good plan. I almost didn't count the bishop. Yeah, because they have this as well as these two. They have 4 attackers on that square. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. So I should not push the e-pawn just yet because I'm not ready for that series of exchanges. What should I do? Should I push my b-pawn? Because again, if this bot has made a mistake, I can't figure out what it is. Another option is to try to get my knight out of the way and push my f-pawn, which would add another defender to this. If the f-pawn were here, it would be another defender on this square. And I'm not worried now about the knight blocking the check threat because I have the bishop here. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the knight on h7 in preparation to push my f pawn. Okay, not the earlier rook move and this don't seem as much like mistakes as they do seem like wasted moves. Almost as if there's something I'm supposed to be seeing and the bot is waiting for me to play it. I'm not seeing anything. So, but yeah, I can't think of any reason to move that other than that's bots. I've noticed bots will do that when I'm running the post-game evaluation. The bots, when I wondered about what's that weird move where they just move this piece back and forth, that's because I had some tactic that I wasn't seeing. But again, what I'm seeing now is this pawn push, which will support my e-pawn push. The problem with that is that it will open up this diagonal. Should I move my king first? I don't know about that because that puts the king right in line with those two pieces. I'm going to go ahead and play this and we'll see what happens. Okay, that knight has moved back. Okay, that knight no longer guards this square. They just removed the defender of the e5 square, which makes me want to play it. But again, there's this check to be worried about across here. So I am going to move my king now and then play this. Okay. I don't think that does anything. We're going to break through here in the center, I believe. I don't think that does anything either. In fact, that weakens this square, so it means I can put my knight there anytime that I want to, because their h-pawn was guarding that square. Okay, now the question is, do I attack or push forward? Or leave it there? If I capture this pawn, well, again, my opponent has two pieces and a potential third piece, if the knight gets out of the way, guarding that square. And I don't have any pieces guarding that square. So if I capture, if they capture back with the queen, then I will be able to gain a tempo with moving this knight, because my rook will be back here aiming at the queen. And if they don't take with the queen, then Milica will need to move the queen somewhere because my pawn will be threatening the queen at that point. So my thought is, if I capture, Milica captures back, and so the queen is on d4, then I could do something like capture this pawn with my knight, and it would be guarded by my bishop, and my rook would be pointing at the queen. I don't know if that's the best move, but that is what I'm going to play. Okay. As I said earlier, I didn't know if any of those other moves were mistakes or inaccuracies, but this is a straight-up blunder. We have won the queen. Okay. Move 22 before Milica made a huge error. And Milica is still not doing anything about that pawn. Very interesting. Oh, well, I guess that threatens it, and if I promote, they take it. So I'm not worried about that pawn, but now this pawn is completely undefended. Should I take it with my bishop? Since I don't need my bishop to guard g7 anymore. I could take with my knight or with my bishop. I'm going to take with my bishop, which threatens the rook. Okay. They didn't move the rook. There we go. I think we have this one in the bag as we pick up more pieces, and now the king is just moving back and forth. I'm going to go here and threaten the knight. The knight moved. Okay. Is the knight threatening anything right now? No, no. No. No, the knight is not threatening anything right now. All right. And my bishop is protected. My knight is protected. All these pieces are guarded. However, I can get this knight out to start participating in what's going on here. I could also give a check, but that's a one-move check. The king just moves out of check. One thing that I can do, however, is get my queen out aiming for this pawn. The only ways that they can defend that pawn are with rook moves. So I think I can win that pawn. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and take the pawn. And also threatening this pawn. I could give a check. But the king just moves out of check. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to go ahead and take the pawn. Okay. Now I will check. Okay, that was not good because the king just moved into the path of this rook here. So we're going to double check, and that's made. All right. Not bad. Yeah, when I moved the bishop out of the path, it cut off this escape square for the king, and that escape square was cut off by my queen. All right, so 32 moves to beat Milica. Let's move on to the next bot. I will analyze that game later. Oh, well, let me save it to my archive. Okay. Next bot is Janjay from Liberia. Rated 700. Okay, we've moved up just a little bit. Let's choose Janjay. Janjay? Not sure. We will click random color, challenge, and play. Okay, we get the white pieces this time. I come to see you. Now let's see who wins this game. A cool way to begin the game. This cannot possibly be an actual opening, can it? I don't think that's a legitimate opening. But I don't know. So, oh, sorry. It says it's the Dutch defense. I forgot all about the Dutch defense. That is a legitimate opening. Okay. I believe the idea in the Dutch is to get this pawn here and this knight here and Vienkettle the bishop and castle. I don't know how good it is. I do know that I can defend against it this way. Let me try that and see what happens. The Dutch defense Hopton attack. I don't know which part of that is the Hopton attack. Probably the bishop. The idea here is that if they do bring the knight up, I just go ahead and take it, which damages the pawn structure. If they try to run my bishop out, I bring it this way, hoping that they chase me, and then move this pawn up, hoping that they take the bishop and mate them. I actually beat somebody in a daily game that way. So I'm going to leave that there for the time being, and I'm going to develop my e-pawn, which allows me to get out this bishop. Okay, well, Janjay blundered much earlier, I'm sure, than Milica did, because I think that's just, I can't pass that up, can I? Is there nothing better? I still don't have this check yet because the g-pawn can move, so I'm just going to take the queen. All right. And that pawn. And develop this knight, which will allow me to castle. Okay, I was about to say this looks like a juicy outpost square for my knight, but that I was worried about that pawn being able to attack it. But they just went ahead and made that impossible. So I'm going to put my knight in there. Janjay is just moving all the pawns. All right. Oh, if that knight wasn't there, this would be checkmate, wouldn't it? Can I get that knight out of there somehow? Because my bishop cuts off these squares, and my knight sitting right here would be check and mate. Except that their knight can capture it. Oh, wow, if there was some way to get that knight off that square. Maybe the knight will move off that square on its own. This would not be checkmate, although it would win a rook, because the king can come after it. It would win an exchange. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Okay. Well, that knight moved off that square. Sure wish my knight was over here now, don't I? Check. And, Can't check there because the knight is guarding. I can't check here because the pawn is guarding. I could just trade off another piece because I'm up a significant amount of material. Or I could castle to further my development. In fact, I want to go ahead and do that. I don't think it's fair to these other pieces if I win without them. So I'm going to go ahead and develop. You know what? I'm going to play this first. Is that mate? No, because the knight is there. Okay. But that's okay. Check. I think that was the only legal move. Check. All right, that removed the defender of my knight, which I didn't notice, but I think that's checkmate. All right. We beat Janjay in 16 moves. All right. And save. I'm going to save that to my archive, and we're going to go on to the next bot. We have gone for 20 minutes here. The next bot is, who's after Janjay? It is Aron, also rated 700. Let's play random colors and go. Okay, we get to be the black pieces this time. Why not the Scandinavian? We could transpose into a Caro-Kann at this point, or we could just take, which I think is what we do in the Scandinavian. But I'm not sure. Honestly, I am just not sure. I'm going to take it. And then I'm going to get development. Development. I think that's threatening my bishop, but I'm not too worried about it. And going to develop here. Going to attack the center pawn. All right. Well, they defended their center pawn, but I can take back with my queen if they take back. They did not take back. Okay, this is very interesting. I'm pretty sure that Aron has either mistaked or blundered at some point here already. I want to move my e-pawn. At first I was thinking of my d-pawn to threaten the knight, but then the knight just moves and threatens my bishop. But if I move my e-pawn, threatening this knight, I'm threatening the rook with my bishop. So I'm going to do that. All right. Well, let's get the rook for a bishop. Oh, I assumed the knight was going to take back, but it didn't. So should we take the knight? I think we should take the knight. Or should we take over here and check? Either way, I assume the queen will recapture. Although over here the bishop could recapture. And either way, the king could recapture. So okay. I could also threaten the queen, protected by the bishop, but then I think the queen would just move back, wouldn't it? Or it might move out. I don't know. I don't know what's best, but I'm going to take that pawn. I'm not worried about that. That knight is protected two ways. If that queen were not right there, this would be mate. I just realized, oh wait, the bishop's also guarding that square. I gotta watch out. I'm just going to blunder everything. Why not advance this pawn? Wait, what? I don't need to be worried about this, do I? I mean, there is a check here, but I'm guarding that. Also, I have a check here. I'm going to check with a queen. That's very depressing. I did not. Aron's message appeared and disappeared too fast. Hopefully it wasn't too insulting, because that was a pretty egregious blunder on my part. All right, I can't take this because my pawn is pinned. I can check, but the bishop would block, I think. But let me do that anyway. I thought the bishop was going to block. check. What? Surely the bishop or somebody, queen should have blocked or something, because check. Oh, I just saw that knight's unguarded. Should I take the knight? Because I'm pretty sure there's no hidden bishop about to recapture. Or should I check here? No, the bishop could block that one too. Check. 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 Got to be careful because I already blundered my whole second queen to that bishop, so let's be careful. I have a check here. Is that mate? No, it's not, because the king will escape back that way. How can I keep the king from escaping back that way? I can play this bishop here. Ah, I almost forgot about that pesky dark squared bishop again. Interesting. Well, I have this check, but then the king just goes back, doesn't it? Check. Now if it goes back, the king is not also a defender on this pawn, so... All right. Now we just win that bishop. And... it's not quite mate. That might be, though. Not yet, not yet. It's close. The king has to go back up in there. And then this isn't quite mate either because the pawn will block, but then my knight is guarding that square. So I think we are mating Aron at this point. All right. 26 moves to checkmate the Aron-bot. Oh, I didn't even see what country Aron was from. Aron was from Iceland. Okay. I believe one of my sisters lived in Iceland for a couple of years, if my memory serves me correctly. Let's go on to the next bot. We're not yet at 30 minutes. So who is after Aron? Mina from Iran. I assume that's pronounced Mina. Well, good luck to you, Mina. From Iran, I am going to choose that random play. Okay, now we're getting black pieces a lot. Once again, let's try the Scandinavian, see what happens. Okay, she's been watching Nelson's games. Remember, the Nelson bot always does this. I think this is a case where I can put the knight on f6 because that protects the pawn, attacks this pawn, and attacks the queen, and develops a piece. So, all right. And now I think we can just take that pawn. Should I take with the pawn or the knight? The pawn seems more like it comes with tempo because it actually threatens the queen, whereas the knight does not directly threaten the queen. So let's do that. Mina has put the queen back where it came from. I am ahead in development. Let's go ahead and attack the queen again with tempo. I think this pawn has... No. I was going to say block with the pawn. I could have also blocked with the knight, bishop, or the knight. Or the bishop over here, which wouldn't have been as good because it blocks their own bishop. So I think it was that 2 bots in a row that just gave us a queen right off the bat. I think so. And once again, the bot did not take our bishop after taking the queen. So I'm just going to keep my bishop. Let's get more pieces out. What do you say? I think instead of putting this knight in front of the c-pawn, I'm going to put the c-pawn in front and then put the knight behind it. But first I will defend the c-pawn, which is now under attack. I will defend it with my bishop. All right. I think if I move there and they try to come after it, I can push h6 and retract the bishop. Although that bishop is the one that took the queen, so it might be an invulnerable bishop. You know what? Let's just let's not test the invulnerable bishop theory. Oh, they are definitely trying to trap the bishop. Okay. But I can take that with en passant. And this pawn has already done its job. So there, you've learned what en passant is, folks. Now we get this knight out as per our plan, I think. Yeah. Okay, coming after our knight. I don't know what else you can do if you are in Mina's position here. I can also always pull this knight back, but I think in this position I prefer to go forward with it. Let's go forward and see. Well, I can go here and threaten both the bishop and the rook at the same time. I cannot attack this pawn with my queen or knight just yet because it is guarded with both of their knights. So I'm going to play this fork. All right, they're coming after my bishop, which I'm not worried about. It will just open the file for my rook. I'm going to take the rook. That's aiming at a completely defended pawn. And one of the knights is no longer guarding this pawn, I've noticed. I also noticed this pawn is not guarded. I think I should just take that pawn. I don't think anything else is under threat right now too much. So let's take that pawn. Okay, not bad. Aiming at my queen. But I wasn't going to leave it there. I also can't check right now because the knight just came from that spot. And if a knight just came from a spot, that means it can return to it. I have actually run into players that have trouble with that line of thinking. But yeah, let's go right there. Queen to f4. That is not really threatening anything because my bishop is guarding that. Now I can check here, which I think I will do. Okay, now I can check here and win the bishop. Well, not win the bishop, you know what I mean. Trade for the bishop. Yeah, let's get rid of that bishop, which was guarding the knight. And okay, that was an interesting move. My bishop here is cutting off one of the king's escape squares, but the king has other escape squares. And I can't get my dark squared bishop over there. Even if I could, the knight's guarding that. So if I were to check on the back rank, the king would escape this way. I can just pick off another pawn. I need to, you know what I need to do? I need the long castle. That's what I need to do. Get my rook out. Oh, they got their rook out. She got her rook out too. Yeah, my bishop is running into my own pawn. I'm going to move this rook. No, I'm going to move this pawn and then move the rook that way. Okay, now the king decides to escape. Okay, let's go ahead and get another queen. We don't need it, but it's always fun to have another queen. And then we can checkmate over here. No, we cannot, because the knight guards that square and the bishop guards that square. All right, what if we were to check here and give that up for the knight? All right. Well, that was fun. What if check, discovered check? Checkmate with the knight. Look at that. All right. And that was 31 moves against Mina, the 700 rated bot from Iran. We're at 35 minutes. Let's take another bot, right? Why not? Who's after Mina? 850. Zara from Malaysia. I think I have an online friend in Malaysia. It's probably not Zara. Zara looks like a child. My online friend, I'm pretty sure, is not a child. That would not be great. Certainly not a great thing to admit in a video, right? Okay. Yeah, pretty sure it's a grown person. All right. Hello. Well, man, those messages go by fast, and I didn't even notice it was there in time to read it. Okay. Is that that's... Were they trying to play the Caro-Kann against d4? I guess if I played e4, we could transpose into the Caro-Kann, but I'm just going to play whatever I want to, I think. They were trying to play the Caro-Kann. And then we could transpose into the semi-Slav, because right now this is the Queen's Pawn opening Zukertort variation. I think if I play c4, yep, the Slav defense, modern line, and they took it. And they took it. That's interesting. Well, now I can take the whole center, can't I? And then pick up this pawn. Okay. I don't think we have f7 bishop giveaway tricks here, because normally after you do that and the king captures, the knight wants to go into one of these spots. And as I'm sure you can tell, Zara has already guarded those spots with her pawn and her knight. So yeah, I don't think that's going to work. But I am going to castle. Seems like a pretty good move to me. I don't think this pawn push does anything, because then the knight can either go in here or out there, although that one wouldn't be as good. So yeah, I don't think we should push e4 just yet, because the knight has plenty of places to go. But we can develop some other pieces, like we can develop this knight to c3. I assume they're preparing b3 here, in which case I'm not going to want my bishop there, but my bishop is fine. Also, I think I can prevent b3 with a4. Maybe I can't. I thought I could. All right. Oh, that knight was guarding that, but it was a free pawn. I honestly expected Zara to take my knight, and then I would win the rook, but Zara didn't do that. But she did take my my center pawn, so maybe I should have been paying slightly more attention there. I don't know if I should move the knight back now and trade it. I don't know. I'm just going to develop my last piece and defend the other, triple defend that other center pawn. See what happens. Okay, that doesn't look good, does it? I guess it's fianchettoing this bishop. Sure, let's bring this knight back. Okay. Maybe not fianchettoing the bishop. I thought that's what the g-pawn move was for, but now they've moved the e-pawn as if they want to get the bishop out this way. Although I don't know where it would go. Those spots are all defended. I can't. I thought about that for a second, but then I realized the bishop is also guarding that pawn. Well, we are even on material after 13 moves, and I am not sure who is winning. I do know that without Stockfish, there are ways to evaluate a position. I've been working on learning this. One way is to evaluate is with space. And I have a little bit more space here. That's usually defined as pieces that you have near or in the opponent's territory. But right now, like, none of their pawns are only guarding squares on their side of the board, whereas I have a pawn guarding squares on their side of the board. The only piece they have that's hitting my side of the board is this bishop, whereas I have pieces hitting across the middle line here. All my pieces are developed. They still have 5 pieces on original home squares. Haven't castled. Oh, that's the other thing, is king safety. My king is safer than their king, I think. What was the other evaluation? Let's see. Space, pawn structure, which, I mean, they're missing all 3 of their B, C, and D pawns. I'm missing these pawns, but at least these 2 are connected. There's a name for this right here. I don't remember what it is. And these 3 are still together, flat against my king. Piece activity, I think, was another way to gauge the advantage. I really don't know. I am noticing a couple of spots here that look like they've been weakened. This one isn't really weakened yet because the queen still controls that diagonal. The queen does hit one spot on my side. But, like, this pawn is doing a lot of work. It's defending 2 different pawns. So I was thinking about that. Perhaps if my queen were here, which wouldn't be a bad move anyway because this pawn is not guarded. So moving my queen here would defend my weak C pawn, my backward C pawn, and it would aim at the G pawn, which is only defended by this, which is also defending here. So I think that's my best move right now. The best move I can think of. And if I can find a way to maybe sacrifice here for this pawn and get that one out of the way, then that pawn will be undefended and it'll come with check. Maybe. All right. Okay. I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it? Getting control of the only completely open file on the board. But it gives up this pawn. Should I take it? I should. I'm just going to take that free pawn. And then I'm going to take the bishop. Okay. They could have just let that go with me getting a pawn, but they wanted the bishops off the board. Maybe my light squared bishop was one of my strengths. I don't know. That rook is kind of malpositioned out there. I don't know if that's the right word. They moved the pawn that I was aiming my queen at. Okay. Well, that takes care of that idea, doesn't it? I had just put my queen here, aiming at that, hoping to distract their f-pawn. Okay. I'm going to retract this rook. Now that it has full control of the open A file, I don't know how handy that will come in, but we'll figure it out. Okay. Well, now that pawn is hanging, but I can't get to it just yet. My bishop is gone. My bishop was pointing at that pawn, but I wasn't going to take it because it had this pawn protecting it. But now it doesn't have that pawn protecting it. I don't know. I don't think this is a good time to put my knight in the middle yet because then that knight takes. Although I will have blockaded that backward pawn. But I don't think blockading is good enough just yet. I want to attack that pawn. But I also see that these pawns are coming for me. Now, if this pawn, if the G pawn advances, then I would basically be forced to put my knight in there. If this pawn advances, it just means retracting the bishop one square. But I think I'm going to go ahead and put my knight in there anyway. But first I'm going to move my rook over to line it up with this queen. Okay. Well, now I hope that this pawn moves, so that I will just take the rook for free. Okay, Zara, what do we have to do to win this? I like that now that my rook is facing across their queen here. Okay, that's not bad. Not bad. Aha. It was a good idea to put my knight in there, wasn't it? Okay. Oh, that was the moment at which I feel like I won this game, was when they did not respond to the fork. And they didn't take back after I captured their queen, so I'm going to bring my knight back. And I don't know if I should just let it go now, or should I go in here and try to open up some more? I really don't know. I could also attack the rook over here, hope that it moves behind me, or something. But that doesn't seem like a good plan. That doesn't seem like a very high-level plan, I should say. I actually, though, no, the bishop just takes, and then my pawn. I'm not gonna take with that pawn while the rook is pointing at my queen. So no, I'm going to go in the middle. Okay, that's what I figured would happen. And now both of those pieces are aiming at this pawn, so we don't want that to happen. But we can give a check here, and I think now that we have we're just up an entire queen, I think we can begin this attack in earnest here. I think that's not ready yet because the rook is still guarding that square. So where do we want to go? This rook is guarding here, so I'm thinking about a queen infiltration, but then maybe they would drop the rook at that point. I don't know, but I'm going to give a check here and then bring my rook up, I think. Check. It moved over further. So now... Well, now it would be nice to be able to hit this pawn and fork those two, but I can't get to it, and that rook is still guarding. So, well, both those rooks being back there is definitely slowing this down. But I'm going to put a rook on the 7th rank here, and then prepare to move my other one there. But first, okay, I think maybe first I should make an out for my king. Not that one, because the bishop cuts off that square. I think I should maybe play g3 so that if my king needs to run, it can. Another thing I am thinking of is bishop to here to keep this from happening. Because again, they still have two pieces pointing at my pawn. So one of those two moves I think is going to be my next move. And then I will bring my rooks to the 7th rank. Let's do this first. Okay. Maybe I should have played the bishop first. That's fine. I'm not worried about that. I am now going to just sidestep that, I think. No, goodness, my rook is hit too. Well, I stepped into that one, didn't I? Yeah, I should have played bishop to d4 first. Okay. Well, I didn't see that, did I? All right. Well, I'm going to sidestep. No, because my other rook is protecting the rook. I'm going to lose a rook for a bishop. That's fine. But I do need to get my queen out of danger. So here. Why not? Okay, and they didn't take my rook. Okay. There we go. All right. Well, thank you for not taking my rook. I will now prepare to checkmate. Right here. Okay. checkmate on move 31. I have now forgotten how many bots that was, and we're going to go ahead and stop this video, but thank you for watching. Oh, save this one to my archive too. We'll see you next time.